So you think traditional real estate's boring? This is the video for you. Let's rank the 12 types of rentals from least profitable to most profitable, and I think you're gonna be surprised. Let's go. All right, so let's get some ground rules laid out so we're not all over the board. Because profitability can mean a lot of different things. But in our case today, for this particular video, here are the criteria. And I'm giving each type of rental a letter grade. And if somehow you missed 6th to 12th grade, here are the letter grades right here and what they each mean. Now, to get to the grade of each rental type, I had to run some calculation, run some magic behind the scenes, including something called the coolness factor or uniqueness. And that's because uniqueness or the coolness factor is actually a huge part of the formula of success when it comes to rentals. But it can be pretty dang hard to objectify. And unlike people, you should always be trying to objectify rentals, and that's what we're doing here today. But first, why don't you objectify that like button and sub to the channel if you want to see more videos just like this. Now, you probably know that you can book a consultation with me where we can work one-on-one, or you and your business partner, or you and your spouse, and we can go through all the numbers and the strategies of buying real estate, getting into rentals, and all that jazz. But if you want to follow along this video, I actually created a PDF that shows the calculations and the list of different rental types right here on my website. It goes in way more detail and you can see exactly how I ran those numbers and how I ended up with each letter grade, which I'm not going to exactly go through for the sake of this video because it would be way too long. And I know you guys don't like very long videos, so that's why I can't do that. But if you really want to dig in deeper with me, go to the website, download it, link down below or right here. So we're gonna be talking about all different types of structures. So we have to have it as a level playing field, as much as possible anyways. We're gonna assume that the property is inside a golden triangle in the Pacific Northwest, the area that I'm most familiar with. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out this video right here and then come back to this video, or you can download that PDF for free too on my website. We're also gonna assume that this property is about an acre, so there's no neighbors directly next to you, and there's also a decent view and same access ways and everything. So we're trying to compare apples to apples as much as possible here. And last and not least, we're going to assume that everything is completely legal and to code. With that all said, we are not considering the purchase of the land, utilities, or outdoor amenities. I want to actually do a direct study of just the structure alone, not including fire pits, hot tubs, shooting grounds. I'm not even sure if that's even legal or safe to do at a rental, but you guys know what I mean. We're not talking about the outside amenities, just the inside or the structure itself. Let's do it. Starting at the bottom, right out of the gates with a solid F, townhomes. The reason is because they sit somewhere right between a single family home and a condo with all the bad attributes and none of the advantages. Townhomes, as many of you guys know, are usually built on the ground level and you're stacked right next to your neighbors. On top of that, townhomes are also not known for their high quality builds. These are usually average or below average builds that developers and builders are just churning out trying to make a quick profit, which means that equity doesn't grow as fast, and they also have one thing that kills every single deal for me: HOAs. I loathe HOAs. And I avoid them like the plague. They have the ability to restrict you from doing anything that you normally would want to do with your rental or with your property. Anywhere from who you rent it out to, how long you rent it out for, and even the window dressings or the color of paint you choose for your home. My 2 cents, stay away from them. So with the ROI being the lowest of the group and basically no coolness factor here at all, attached with the HOA, this is an easy F and a no-go for me. Now the condo is just a townhome with 2 slight upsides. The first is in high-rise condos, you actually have a decent view of the river, the lake, the ocean, the city, or whatever you may have. Now if you're looking straight into another building, not so much. That's not that great. The second thing is that there are condos in high vacationing areas. Think about coastal towns, mountain towns, that type of thing, where there are resort style and the HOAs accommodate vacation rentals. So the good thing is that you can rent it out. The horrible thing is that you literally have hundreds, if not thousands, of competitors right next to you, all with similar or the exact floor plan of your place. And because of that, there's nothing novel here. ROI is just slightly better than townhomes, but nothing to write home about. And the coolness factor and the buildup of equity is also relatively low, so I'm giving this a D. By far the most popular and what most people own are the single family homes, but are you surprised to see it this low on the list? Yes, a D+. And the reason behind that is because they're boring, they're hard to maintain, they cost a lot of money, and they attract large parties. And the ROI on them is just slightly better than a townhome or a condo. True single family homes without house hacking or land hacking are horrible investments for young people and investors just starting out. You tie up way too much of your money trying to acquire one for the type of income source that you get. The only saving grace of single family homes and why I ended up giving it a D+ is because you can generate equity pretty well and easily in them when you remodel them, expand them, and if you're in a highly sought after area. But remember, equity is only one side of the equation of what we're trying to do when we invest in real estate. Now, these have become a big trend in the past decade, mostly because of the minimalism movement. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. And the fact that you can build them relatively cheaply. But they're still not that cheap. To have one done properly with all the amenities a normal person would want to live or rent out, it's gonna cost you between $50,000 to $60,000, sometimes even more. And then on top of that, you do need a truck or buy a truck that is capable of towing something of that size. Also, tiny homes are not assets. It is an asset if you rent it out, but in terms of equity, you're really not gonna be appreciating much value here. Most tiny homes that I've seen, they actually end up losing value over time instead of gaining value like a traditional stick-built home on a foundation. Now you're probably thinking, well, it's okay, I'm just gonna put it in my backyard, I'm gonna rent it out and have a secondary income source. Hang on. A lot of major cities do not allow this. There's this very specific type of permitting that would allow this, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops. Some cities just flat out will not allow you to do this at all. That means you can't put it in your front yard, you can't put it in your driveway, and you can't put it in your backyard. The upside is based on your creativity and the design you decide to go with. You can make these as unique as you want. And ROI is about 3 times higher than the bottom 3 options that we had just talked about. Solid C right here for tiny homes. So a big part of the Airbnb movement right around 2010 to 2015 was that a ton of people in cities were basically pulling out second mortgages. I don't know why. I am just slurring my words today. I swear I haven't drank anything. Second mortgages. Breathe. And refinancing their main homes to build out these really expensive ADUs. And just for you who don't know what an ADU is, it just stands for auxiliary dwelling unit. And typically people build this out in their backyard. It acts like a guest house. It's separate from the main house, and then they rent it out. Now, this in itself is not a bad strategy at all. It's actually something I recommend to a lot of my clients in a certain situation. Think house hacking or land hacking type of thing. But guess what happens when every neighbor within a 5-mile radius of you decides to do the same exact thing? That's right. You drive prices down. And that's exactly what we're seeing in a lot of the major cities. Go to Seattle, Portland, LA, San Francisco, Houston, Austin. Take a look at how much it costs to stay inside the city. I used to be able to charge between $300 to $500, depending on the season, per night for my condo. Today, you're looking at rates as low as $39 to $50 to stay in an ADU. That's why I'm putting ADU inside the city so much lower on this list. Now, the saving grace of the ADU is that it's on a fixed foundation, it's on your property, and you're gonna be building quite a bit of equity by building it. Typically, if you do it right, you do it smart, you should be able to double the equity or double your investment, and you make some extra cash flow too that should hopefully pay for your mortgage. The coolness factor and uniqueness is not so much there unless you really design something crazy cool, but even that will be even more expensive. So I'm giving this a solid C+ because of the equity. Okay, so we're getting into the fun stuff here where the ROI starts jumping into the triple digits. Now, Airstreams have always had this nice little niche in the camping and glamping world, and that's because they offer everything a typical home would have, except it's in a small, convenient, attractive package. Kind of like me. Just kidding, I'm not that convenient. And they're actually surprisingly unique, and they hold their value pretty well. However, to get a new one, you're looking at $80,000 to $100,000 plus, but you can get one in decent shape for around $50,000, $60,000 plus. And ROI is right around 100% in the very first year. However, you do have the same issues with zoning and permits, just like the ones with the tiny homes. This tops our list in coolness and uniqueness, hands down. Out of all the most liked or hearted properties on Airbnb, tree houses have been #1 for several years straight, and they deserve it. It's an actual really cool build. I think it triggers something inside of us from being kids where we wanted to build forts and build something up in a tree and have like this tree house with no girls allowed. No, I'm just kidding. But even as adults, we still covet the tree house, and rightfully so. They command a very high nightly rate, anywhere from $200 to $400, $500, $600 a night. But in our scenario, to keep it apples to apples, we're making it the same size as everything else. We're looking at the higher end, or actually the top end of our scale at $200 a night. The only real drawback that's giving this only just a B on my grading system is because they are incredibly expensive to build out correctly, and you need a ton of permits and engineering just to get it done. However, with that said, you still will pull a respectable 70 to 80% ROI after your first year with your treehouse. Now, easily, this is the simplest stick-built option here on the list today. And honestly, one of my favorites. A-frames or A-frame cabins or anything in this category is a huge hitter for a lot of travelers and guests on both Airbnb and VRBO platforms. And they actually retain their values pretty well. An A-frame that's around 150 square feet to 200 square feet can be built out for around $35,000 to $40,000. It's really not that expensive. And smaller ones, like my friend Cass did in this video right here, she built those out for well less than $10,000, like around $2,000 to $3,000 a piece, fully furnished. And we're looking at ROIs above 100% all day long, and that's why these are one of my favorites. Now, if A-frames are the easiest stick-built projects, canvas tents are hands down the easiest to set up. They take the least amount of time, the least amount of labor and materials to get up and cash flowing for you. Canvas tents includes everything from like safari tents, bell tents, and everything else that basically includes a pole and canvas draped over it. Now, these can be insanely cheap for as little as $400 or $500 all the way up to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and up. And because of that super low initial investment, you're looking at ROIs nearing 200% within the first year, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, with that said, there are certain drawbacks and why they're not the very top of this list. One is you build absolutely zero equity because you're obviously just putting up a tent. Second is that you are constrained to certain climate. You really probably won't be using canvas tents too far north where it gets really cold, a lot of wind, rain, and snow. Also, you probably won't be doing it too far south where there's just crazy hot weather, like think Phoenix, 115 degrees, or think the south where you have like 100% humidity. It would just be miserable in these in certain times of the year. Canvas tents can be a great option for you and give you a fantastic cash flow. But you will have to solve the age-old dilemma of where do I poop and shower? But in terms of flexibility and moving fast, these things are cash flow monsters, assuming that you have the right piece of land with zoning and permits. Now, these can provide ample space and accommodate a lot more people than safari tents. They are, however, a bit more expensive than traditional canvas tents, safari tents, or even bell tents. Think about maybe between 2 to 5 times, depending how crazy you want to get with it. But with that, you do get a lot of the same pros and cons as a canvas tent. However, in this case, you have something that's a lot more built out on a nice platform, but you can expect similar coolness factor and ROI as canvas tents. Now, if you want to stand out and be completely different from everybody else, this is where it's at. Designed to withstand all climates, I'm talking about sun, rain, snow, wind, dome tents can be set up to operate year-round, and their coolness factor is only slightly overshadowed by the infamous treehouse. Otherwise, these are right at the top of the list in terms of uniqueness. And sharing another attribute with tree houses is the ROI, clearing 180% plus after the first year. You're basically almost tripling your initial investment within 1 year. The only downside behind this is you are putting up another tent and you're not really creating any real value or equity on your property by putting this up because it is, at the end of the day, a temporary structure. However, the cash flows makes up for this very, very easily. And the number one are container homes. Now, they're only a third in place when it comes to uniqueness or coolness factor, but other than that, container homes nearly satisfy all of the criteria that we're looking at. To do these legally, container homes require design, engineering, permitting, zoning, the full nine to get up and running, which gives you equity when you're done, unlike the previous tents and temporary structures that we were just talking about. That means if you pull an ADU permit or even a house permit, you have a legitimate house or guest house that will increase and boost your property value. And as odd as it sounds, with permitting and engineering, it actually gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility to do what you want. And if you use that to your advantage and build correctly, you can create a tremendous amount of value on your property. And although ROI is not as high as some of the others, it still gives you a very respectable 90% return after your first year, on top of all the equity at the end of your build out. Remember, you can go to my website, download that PDF of this whole list, and see how I calculated and more of the details and the numbers that I ran to come up with those letter grades and why I put them where they are on that list of 1 to 12. Just go to the website right here and you can download it completely for free. You can also download all my previous stuff that I've also put on my website. Now, if you're watching this right now, you probably are thinking that I'm a little bit biased to put dome tents and shipping containers at number 1 and 2. Now, did I do that because I'm biased, or am I building them because I already did this list before? We'll have to see when I'm finished, and then I'll get back to you and tell you exactly what the experience is like and what my ROIs are after I'm done with these build outs. Now, I'm still offering consultations if you're interested in working one-on-one with me. At the time of this video, I am booked out 2 weeks, so if you want to get started in buying land, buying property, building a house, container homes, glamping, or anything like that, and you want to go over financing, red flags, permits, zoning, you can reach out to me directly with my email below, or you can go to my website, get more information, and see if it's a good fit for you, and then you can reach out to me and we can set something up. For all of you who made it this far in my video, you guys are my heroes and you're true rock stars. Remember to like this video, sub to the channel, and other than that, I love you guys all, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.